lately when I'm meditating or praying, I have a hard time with prayer in general.
Those are two different things, by the way.
I was raised Catholic as well.
Meditating is step 3. Prayer is step 1.
Yeah. When you're praying, you're talking with source energy, trying to communicate with source energy. Is there a name for source energy that is different from God that source energy would prefer? Or no? Anything you want to call it?
The most significant thing that we want to say about this question is that you are doing your asking all day, every day. So you are in a constant state. If you want to call it prayer or request, you're in a constant state of that, because life just continues to cause you to ask. The thing that's interesting about the official, or what you usually mean by prayer mode, is that most people, when you stop to actually do what you call pray, are not in the receiving mode. You're usually in a needing mode, or in a disappointed mode, or in a frightened mode when you pray. So even though you're doing more specific step 1ing, you're not in the receptive mode, so you can't receive it. And then later, when you are in a receptive mode, you do receive it, but then you don't associate it with your request, because time has passed or circumstances are different for you. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes, the way we would offer the experience of prayer would be, we would pray our prayer by making statements of appreciation. Because when you are in appreciating mode, then you are in the receiving mode, and that's when the answers are most available to you, because you're in that receptive mode. And source energy, it's interesting, because as Esther sat to meditate, of course, she didn't know she was tapping into source energy. She was just meditating. She was just quieting her mind. That was all she was ready for. She had no idea what she was getting herself into. And we are certain that if she had known, she would have stopped it right then. She was not ready to even accept that she would be doing anything like this. But she was just ready to feel the satisfaction of that breathing, and ready to feel the satisfaction of alignment like she had never felt before. She didn't even know what it was, but it was like that warm spot that you're talking about. It felt so good that she wanted more of that. And so as she was in that receptive mode, and we began to offer her more and more specific vibrations for her to translate, she did not know they were her own, and she just sort of breathed them away. She did not know that she was actually receiving, and so she just began to breathe them away until we were actually able to offer a vibration strong enough that she received the impulse to begin moving, and she realized she was spelling letters in the air. And so that's when our true communication began. But the significant thing that we want to say about all of that is that as you are an extension of source energy and don't really know it, you still are an extension of source energy, even though you don't really know it. And so Esther didn't know that she was receiving thoughts, and she did not try to identify the source from which she was receiving them at first. But as the experience of this communication became so apparent to her, then it caused a formulation of a question within her in a stronger way. Who are you? Who are you? What is this? And so we spelled Abraham. Now, this is the most significant thing that we want to say. It's specific to your question. We do not hold a title like you used to identify yourself that we were wanting to present to Esther, other than for the reason that you all want some point of reference. It makes it easier if you all have some point of reference. And we love you so much, but you've really messed up the word God. It's just not a good label anymore. It means so many different things to so many people, and you've killed more of one another in the name of that than all other things put together. And so that was certainly not what we wanted to project to Esther, but it was up to her to translate it into whatever way she did. Now Esther did not have a religious background, although there was religion around her, but she had not focused it into her being. She had not accepted it as something that was meaningful or important, because the religion that surrounded her taught, like almost all religions do, that you have to do these specific things in order to be granted your pass into heaven. And she looked at her father, who she knew was the most loving, kind person on the planet, most likely, even though she had not met all of the others. And he wasn't keeping their rules, and therefore he was out of there. And Esther, at a very early age, says, oh no, that can't be. You must be wrong. Because her own heart let her know who her father was. And those ridiculous rules that were being offered by someone else did not register as anything that was truth with Esther. So she did not have a religious background, and she did not have knowledge of religious figures. So we are presenting to Esther in vibrational form who we are as best we could, offering a block of thought about being at the foundation of things, being teachers at the very core of what you would call any civilization, at being non-physical energy, wanting to be present in physical form in order to answer things that you are ready to ask about. And at an unconscious level, Esther found the name Abraham, not even able to find the name Abraham, but found the letters that made the word Abraham, not because that was the name that we wanted to project to her, but because that was the best comprehensible label for the block of thought that she was receiving from us in those earliest of stages. So Abraham it is.
Yeah. So is it finding what resonates with us individually in terms of how we
Yes, it is.
perceive?
But you have to remember, let's really talk about this for just a moment. So you heard our explanation of how Esther received us, how Esther received the block of thought. And you've been listening to us for several hours now about the receiving mode, and you being in that vibrational receptive place where you can translate a vibration into something that's meaningful for you. So what you just said was about you thinking it into being. You're not thinking, you're receiving. And so just let it come. This is the thing that we're really wanting to encourage you. Did you have an opportunity to meditate this morning? When you're in that meditative state and you really have managed to quiet your mind, and then something occurs to you, you received it. When it occurs to you. So you translated it at an unconscious level. And it is so wonderful to understand the distinction between receiving something and translating it at an unconscious level, rather than conjuring it from what you've got going over here in the physical experience. Can you feel the difference? A lot of people begin receiving, and then they talk to others, and then they get all second guessing about it. Esther was awakened in the night last night. Someone rang her phone, and she didn't get up to answer it. She never answers her telephone in the room, because everyone that she knows really needs to be in contact with her has her cell phone, and anybody else that's calling her, it's not something that she's expecting or ready for, especially on a workshop weekend. And then when she got up this morning, she thought, should I check the message? And did, and the message was incomprehensible. The whole thing was garbled. Couldn't hear who it was or what was being said or anything about it, because that's not how Esther receives. Esther's got a direct communication with source energy, and we will tell her it was someone wanting to be another source of information for her. But Esther, she's tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You all are. We are really, really thrilled with the knowledge that you have the ability to tune in to your own frequency and receive what's important and meaningful for you, that you don't need it to be translated through someone else. You have the ability to get it, you see. Just don't be so heady about it. Don't think so much about it. Don't try to make things happen with it. Don't try to manipulate it. Just get into that place of neutrality, which means non-resistance, and allow everything that matters to you to be received by you in the way that you can receive. Isn't that a funny, even ridiculous, obvious statement? If you have to get into the receiving mode to receive it, then when you receive it, you're in the receiving mode. How do I know if I'm in the receiving mode? Did you receive something? No, then you're not in the receiving mode. But I want so much to receive something that I think I'll just make something up. No, that's not the receiving mode. That's the making things up mode. How do I get into the receiving mode? Stop all other attraction. Quiet your mind. Focus on your breathing or the ticking of a clock or something that isn't very emphatic but that does require concentration. Focus there and feel your engines all sort of wind down. And then in the absence of any resistance, the momentum of your source, the attraction power of your inner being, what your inner being is then saying to you, knowing about you, thinking with you, you will receive it. It is our promise. And don't get too hung up on names or where it's coming from. Just evaluate it in terms of whether it's a warm spot on the street.